On September 11, 1814, the British fleet sailed into the mouth of the Patapsco River. 2 weeks before, the British had captured Washington and burned the public buildings. Now they planned a worse fate for Baltimore, a city they called a nest of pirates. But Baltimore was prepared. Fort McHenry had been strengthened, and several gun batteries supported Fort McHenry in guarding the harbor entrance. In the hot weeks of late summer, Major General Sam Smith had directed citizens, free blacks, soldiers, and slaves to build defenses at Hampstead Hill across the expected route of the British advance. People gave money and supplies, and militia poured into Baltimore. When the British ships appeared, General Smith sent a brigade of militia, commanded by General John Stricker, marching out the North Point Road. As General Smith anticipated, the British attacked by land and sea. On the morning of September 12th, the veteran British soldiers stepped ashore at North Point and began marching toward Baltimore. As a last defense measure, the Americans began sinking merchant ships to block the harbor. Halfway to Baltimore, the British advance guard encountered a party of American riflemen, and in a brief skirmish, their commander, Major General Robert Ross, was killed. Continuing their advance, the British struck the main body of the American forces. The Battle of North Point raged for 2 hours. Colonel Arthur Brooke directed British regulars to the American left, causing half the militia to withdraw in confusion. But the American right and center stood firm, and the remaining 1,500 Americans held against the advance of 4,000 British for over an hour. After suffering twice as many casualties as they inflicted, British experience and numbers finally forced the Americans to fall back toward the city. At dawn, on September 13th, the British began the second part of their two-pronged attack. British warships opened fire on Fort McHenry. All day, the Americans endured the bombardment, but the rain of bombs and rockets did not weaken the fort. When the British ships moved closer, Major George Armistead ordered the fort's cannon to open fire and drove them back. Meanwhile, on land, the British Army marched toward Baltimore. At Hampstead Hill, the British were stopped by the strong American earthworks and the 15,000 men behind them. Soon after midnight on September 14th, the British Navy made a desperate attempt to create a diversion that would assist the Army and break the stalemate. They hoped to land and attack the fort and the other harbor defenses, while British soldiers with fixed bayonets stormed Hampstead Hill. Under the cover of darkness, British Marines and sailors in longboats rowed with muffled oars up the ferry branch past Fort McHenry. Their attempt failed. In the stormy weather, many of the longboats became lost and returned to the ships. Cannon fire from shore batteries caught the others in the water. On land, the British commander canceled the bayonet attack and ordered a withdrawal. The Battle of Baltimore was over. Standing on the deck of a cruise ship returning to Baltimore, Francis Scott Key saw his country's flag flying over Fort McHenry. Baltimore had been saved.